In ancient Chinese mythology, there is one mountain that appears in nearly every great legend. It is said to be the home of the Queen Mother of the West. It is where Hui once sought the elixir of immortality. It is the destination that King Mu of Zhou journeyed west to find. The classic of mountains and seas calls it the earthly capital beneath the heavenly emperor, while later generations honor it as the ancestor of all mountains. That mountain is Kunlun. Even today, the Kunlun Mountains still stretch across western China as a real mountain range. Yet when people stand among these snow-covered peaks, they no longer find the 9 heavenly gates, the Weak River, or the sacred realm where the gods were said to dwell in the classic of mountains and seas. So what exactly was the Kunlun described by the ancient Chinese? Was it a real mountain, or a mythical world created by the collective imagination of Chinese civilization? Why, for thousands of years, did people believe that deep within the mountains of western China stood such a sacred peak? To search for the answer, we must return to an ancient book written more than 2,000 years ago, the classic of mountains and seas. Exactly when this remarkable work was compiled remains a subject of scholarly debate. Most scholars believe it took shape between the Warring States period and the Western Han Dynasty, preserving myths, geographical knowledge, and tribal traditions passed down from even earlier generations. Rather than a conventional history or simply a collection of myths, it can best be understood as a map of how ancient people imagined and interpreted their world. In the classic of mountains and seas, in the chapter Within the Seas, the West, we find one of the earliest descriptions of Kunlun. Within the western land stands the hollow of Kunlun, the earthly capital beneath the heavenly emperor. The hollow of Kunlun measures 800 li across and rises to a height of 10,000 ren. In just a few lines, the text establishes the original image of Kunlun. This is not an ordinary mountain, it is the heavenly emperor's capital in the human world, spanning 800 li and rising 10,000 ren. It was imagined as a place that almost connected heaven and earth, the holiest place in the world. According to the ancient text, anyone approaching Kunlun would not first encounter gods or immortals. Instead, they would face a natural barrier that ordinary people could not cross. Ancient sources describe the mountain as being surrounded by the Weak River. Although the classic of mountains and seas never explains exactly what the Weak River was, later traditions gradually expanded the idea, giving rise to the famous description that even the lightest feather could not float upon its surface. The purpose of this image was not to describe a strange river, it was to convey a simple but powerful idea. Between Kunlun and the human world stood a boundary that ordinary mortals could not cross. Beyond the Weak River lay yet another obstacle. Some ancient texts describe a mountain of everlasting flame surrounding Kunlun. The Weak River and the wall of fire, one of water and one of flame, together separated Kunlun from the world of ordinary people. Only after passing these barriers could the true Kunlun finally appear. The classic of mountains and seas continues. There are 9 wells enclosed by jade railings. There are 9 gates, guarded by the Kaming beast. This is where the 100 gods reside. This is one of the most memorable passages in the entire book. 9 sacred wells, 9 towering gates, and standing guard before them was the mysterious Kaming beast. Different ancient texts describe this creature differently. One of the best-known traditions portrays it with the body of a tiger, a human face, and 9 heads, serving as the guardian of Kunlun and preventing ordinary mortals from entering. Why were there exactly 9 gates? Why place such a mysterious guardian before them? No definitive answer exists today. Some scholars believe that the number 9 symbolized supreme authority and completeness in ancient Chinese culture. If so, the 9 gates were likely intended as a symbol of sacred order rather than a description of an actual architectural structure. As with many aspects of Kunlun, however, this remains only one modern interpretation. Beyond the 9 gates, Kunlun finally reveals its most mysterious side. Upon the mountain grows an enormous sacred grain known as mu. The classic of mountains and seas describes it as being 5 sun in height and 5 arm spans in circumference, far larger than any crop found in the real world. Here are also sacred springs, precious jade, and a realm where countless gods live together. During the Western Han Dynasty, the Huainanzi, in its chapter Terrain, expanded the image of Kunlun even further. it describes Kunlun as having 9 ascending terraces, rising layer upon layer. To the west stood the pearl tree, the jade tree, and the tree of immortality. To the east grew the sandalwood tree and the legendary Langan tree. To the north and south were sacred trees such as the Yao tree and the Bai tree. If the classic of mountains and seas established the earliest outline of Kunlun, the Huainanzi transformed it into the sacred mountain and immortal paradise that later generations came to imagine. From this point onward, Kunlun was no longer simply a mountain, it became a shared vision of the center of the universe, the realm of eternal life, and the kingdom of the gods. But if Kunlun existed only in mythology, why did later emperors and court historians search for it so seriously? The turning point came during the Western Han dynasty. In the 2nd century BC, Emperor Wu of Han sent Zhang Qian on his historic expedition to the western regions. After his return, China gained its first systematic knowledge of the mountains, oases, jade deposits, and kingdoms beyond its western frontier. From that moment, the ancient legend of Kunlun began to overlap with real geography. The records of the Grand Historian, in the chapter The Account of Dayuan, records that the Han court believed the source of the Yellow River might lie near Khotan, a region famous for its fine jade. This appeared to match earlier traditions describing the Yellow River as flowing from Kunlun and Kunlun as a land rich in precious jade. Based on these ancient accounts, Emperor Wu officially identified the mountain south of Khotan as Kunlun. For the first time in history, the legendary mountain was placed onto an official map of the real world. Interestingly, however, Sima Qian did not fully accept this conclusion. After quoting an earlier account of Kunlun from the Chronicles of Yu, he left readers with a thought-provoking question: but where has anyone truly seen the Kunlun described in the Chronicles of Yu? In other words, where was the Kunlun described in those ancient records? Was it ever a real place that people had actually seen? Those words are remarkably important. They show that more than 2,000 years ago, one of China's greatest historians had already recognized a fundamental question: the mountains of the real world were not necessarily the same Kunlun described in mythology. From that point forward, Kunlun became a mystery that would endure for centuries. Today, the Kunlun Mountains still stretch across western China. Beginning near the eastern edge of the Pamir Plateau, the range extends across Xinjiang, forms the northern boundary of the Tibetan Plateau, reaches into Qinghai, and spans roughly 2,500 kilometers, making it one of Asia's greatest mountain systems. Here, towering snow-covered peaks rise above vast glaciers and endless wilderness. These mountains also give birth to countless rivers and have inspired ancient ideas about the origins of life. Yet there are no 9 heavenly gates, no caming beast stands guard, nor is there a heavenly capital built by the heavenly emperor. Perhaps, then, the answer is not a simple choice between myth and reality. Kunlun is neither a completely fictional creation nor simply the mountain range that appears on modern maps. The real mountains of western China inspired the earliest sense of awe among ancient people. The classic of mountains and seas and the Huainanzi gave those mountains a mythological identity. Later, Emperor Wu of Han and Zhang Qian attempted to place that legendary mountain back into the geography of the real world. Over thousands of years, mythology, history, and reality became intertwined, together shaping Kunlun into the most important sacred mountain in Chinese civilization. That is why Kunlun holds such a unique place in Chinese culture. Unlike Mount Tai, where emperors performed the imperial Feng and Shan ceremonies, Kunlun belongs primarily to the world of mythology. It became the symbolic center of the universe, a place where heaven and earth meet, a place where gods and humanity are connected, a place upon which ancient people projected their deepest hopes for the unknown, for immortality, and for the order of the cosmos. For Western audiences, the closest comparison may be Mount Olympus in Greek mythology. Yet Kunlun is more than simply the home of the gods, it is also the legendary source of great rivers, the homeland of precious jade, and one of the most enduring cultural symbols of Chinese civilization. Today, when we once again open the classic of mountains and seas and read the famous words, "Within the western land stands the hollow of Kunlun, the earthly capital beneath the heavenly emperor," we are no longer looking at nothing more than a mythical mountain. we are witnessing the magnificent vision of an ancient civilization striving to imagine the center of the universe, the realm of the gods, and humanity's endless curiosity about the unknown. And upon this sacred mountain stands one more figure whose story has endured for thousands of years. In our next episode, we will journey even deeper into Kunlun. Together, we will investigate one of the most fascinating and legendary figures in Chinese mythology, the Queen Mother of the West.